Hey everyone, Breshana Miller here with Kairos Coaching and Consulting. Glad to be back with you here. Thank you for joining me on today's video. I'm going to be sharing with you today one of my big wins that I just achieved, and that is passing my PMP exam on the very first try, scoring above target in all of the domains. So stay tuned to this video. What I'm going to be sharing with you today is not really tips on how to pass your PMP exam. So if any of you are familiar with the PMP exam, you are in the process of applying, preparing, getting ready to take that test. I just wanted to share with you just a couple of things that I did in order to really help me pass the test and really give you more of a higher level strategy and not so much the tactics that you need to do, which is basically just taking the time to study. But I just wanted to share with you what I actually did that I have not personally heard or seen anyone really talk about. Everyone is very big on just giving you all of the information as to what you need to know and how to pass it. But I don't find that they're sharing everything that is really important as to how to pass this exam. So if you are not familiar, just to give you some context about the project management professional certification exam, it is administered by the Project Management Institute, and it is a very complicated, long, exhausting test. Okay, it's a test that is 4 hours long. There are 180 questions, and it tests you in your knowledge, your areas of knowledge and expertise in 3 domains, which is people, business, and process. And as of now, it used to be primarily focused on traditional project management. Of course, now it's more hybrid, a lot of teaching and a lot of questions around hybrid and agile as well, iterative and incremental. So it's a lot of information that you have to consume. I went through the boot camp. I went through the boot camp, and that was a 4-day boot camp. And I'll make sure to provide a link below to the testing, the training, authorized training partner that I used that was very helpful in getting me prepared and set up for success. I highly recommend them. I'll make sure to put a link in the description. But primarily, I wanted to share this because there's a lot that goes into preparing for the PMP exam besides just studying. And I think that I really truly believe that what I did really had a huge payoff. Okay. And just so that you can score, there's no defined score for the PMP exam. There's no like, oh, if you score 70 or 80 or whatever, you pass. You just get a pass or you get a fail. And they don't tell you what questions you got right and what questions you got wrong. They don't tell you what you scored in either domain. They just let you know this is how you performed in each domain, and your performance is rated as needs improvement, below target, on target, or above target. And I scored above target in all of the domains. So, and honestly, to be totally honest with you, I was a little surprised. I was very surprised that I scored above target in all domains. I was hoping for that, but at the same time, I just was like, I just want to pass. I'm not trying to be like a rock star on this exam. I just want to pass. And for the most part, I think that's the goal that you should have in mind. So let me just go ahead and cut right to it. What I think is really important in preparing for the exam. So of course, you have to study, right? You have to study for the exam, and you have your information of, whatever training partner you are using, they should provide, templates, framework sheets, and you have your book and things like that. And there's also the PMBOK, the Program Management Book of Knowledge. So there's a lot of different books that you can use to study. I use the information, the sheets, the frameworks, and the study book that my training organization provided. Here's a shocker, maybe for some of you. I did not read the PMP to study for the exam. I didn't read the program management book of knowledge to study for the exam, and I scored very high. So that means something. The training partner I used, I think, is really, really good. So not that I wouldn't recommend it, but I'm here to tell you, if you study properly, and if you have chosen a good training partner that has a really good success rate, you may not necessarily need to read the PMP. It's a huge book, okay? So you have to kind of make that decision for yourself. Some of the things that I did that I found was really important and made a huge difference in how I was able to pass this test on the first try, get 3 chances. You have a year to take the exam from the acceptance of your application, and you get 3 attempts to pass the exam, okay? So it's okay if you don't pass it the second time, you get 3 tries. And really, the PMP credential is the same behind your name, whether you have to take 3 times or you took it 1 time. So that's something to keep in mind. Okay, let's get right into it. I knew that there was a lot that was going to be required of me in order to be able to pass this exam. I took the boot camp in November, and I scheduled my exam in February, on Valentine's Day, to be exact. So that gave me December, January, that gave me roughly 3 months. I took it in the beginning of November, and I had just 3 months to pass the exam. So here's the thing. One of the things, you have to make sure you schedule the exam around an ideal time, a more optimum time. Life is going to happen. So you just have to be realistic about what you have going on in your life. So the first thing is, be realistic about your life situation, first of all, okay? Because your goal should be to pass this test on the first try. So the thing is, don't schedule the exam in a rush mode, trying to hurry up and get it out of the way, and then you're cramming on top of all of the other things you have to maintain. But then again, don't schedule it too far out where you just drag in the process. The thing is, I knew that because this exam was going to require a lot of me, that meant that I had to be very honest and realistic about my capacity. So your capacity is really, really important. If you have a lot of things on your plate right now, and then you're adding the PMP exam to your plate, and you're not really being, very honest about what you can handle, you're actually not even like doing the thing that a project manager would do. So don't overcommit. Be honest about your capacity. If you know that you have this exam coming up, then the thing you need to do is really think about your capacity and how you're going to manage that. For me, it meant I had to streamline my life, and I had to really put some things on the side. So I really went into this operations and maintenance mode. That meant that anything that I didn't really need to do, I decided that I wasn't going to do it. There were things that were scheduled on my calendar well before I had scheduled this exam. And I just decided that if this is something that I can either reschedule, postpone, cancel, or delegate, then I'm going to do that, because I wanted to make sure that I was allowing myself, creating the space for myself to be in the optimal flow state and have the optimal mental energy that I needed in order to approach this exam successfully and pass. So for me, that meant hardly spending any time on social media. My social media activity went down to close to 0. So I had to minimize or basically eliminate a lot of things that I know are distractions. And as you know, social media can be a really huge distraction in addition to other things. So things that I know that I could eliminate and really control and manage on my own, I made sure that I did that. Establishing boundaries, really important. You have to, if you don't have boundaries, you're going to need it. Now, granted, again, I'm married, I have kids, so boundaries are really, really decide what my boundaries were going. I had to decide what my boundaries needed to be, not we're going to be, but what my boundaries needed to be, and then communicate that to my family. So commitment to your boundaries, right? Committing to your boundaries, meaning you're committed to it, and you're also you're communicating your commitment to those who will be impacted by that. So for me, I knew that I needed time to study. I needed uninterrupted, deep focus, intense time to study. So I needed to make sure that everyone in the household was very much well aware of, this is what I have on my plate, this is the goal that I have, and this is the commitment that it's going to take. So I had to communicate the boundaries to my family, because I have small kids. They're very, they impose, they don't care about boundaries and privacy or anything. So they're just gonna like barge right on in, do what they want to do, say what they want to say, and not really care about like your important goals. Kids don't care. So I had to communicate that and make them, understand that. And the other thing I did was manage my energy. I had to do a lot with managing my energy and managing my anxiety, because taking time to study and trying to, maintain my own life, my business, my work, family, and just daily household activities, it can be very draining. So I had to be very intentional about managing my energy and my anxiety. I am not a late night person. I'm more of a morning person. And so that meant for me, I knew I had no intentions of studying till 11. Well, I did study till 11 a couple of times, but like midnight, 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning, absolutely not. I was not doing that. I believe in getting rest. So I ensured that whatever studying I needed to do, I made sure that I did it during the evening times. I mean, instead, I had to sacrifice some of the time that I would normally spend with my family, whether during dinner or just hanging out with them, watching a show or something like that, or even helping some of my kids with their homework. I had to really delegate that stuff out and let them know that, hey, I can't help you with that right now. You're going to either need to go to your dad, or you all have to help each other, and I need that time. So I had to really set those boundaries, manage my energy by knowing when is the best time for me to study. So the best time for me to study was during the day, and preferably also like in the evening time, like around between 6 and 8 o'clock, So my thing is, as long as I had gotten into the flow of studying in the morning by a decent time in the morning, or had I gotten to a decent flow at a decent time in the evening time, meaning I didn't start studying at 9 o'clock. If it was 9 o'clock and I hadn't started studying, I probably was not going to have a really great study session. So because I know that about myself, I ensured that when I decided that I was going to study in the evening, I would start at a reasonable time that was good for me. 6, 7 o'clock, 7:30, even 8 o'clock. But once it started getting towards that later time, like 9, 9:30, 10, I was like, so I ensured that didn't happen. So I made sure that 6 o'clock or whatever time I set for myself, I studied at that time. I also committed to studying for an extended period of time. So I didn't do like this disconnected studying, study here, study there. I had deep focused time. I committed each day. I didn't have a study plan. That's the thing. I know some people tell you come up with a study schedule. I didn't have a study schedule, but I did have a study commitment. And that was each day I'm going to study. And I determined what that was going to be for each day, because every day was different for me. So certain days I said, I'm going to study for 2 hours in the evening, or I'm going to study 3 hours, or I'm going to study 4 hours, or something like that. I didn't have any study sessions that went over 4 hours, but there were times when I knew that I was going to study for 4 hours straight. Of course, that's with breaks, but that was with the intention of me really saying, I'm going to commit the next 4 hours to studying and doing what is necessary to increase my knowledge level and close the gap on any areas where I felt like I was shaking. So that was my way of managing my energy, which was also managing my time. And then I would say the other thing was managing my energy. Managing my anxiety around it. So knowing it was so much information, and there's a lot of nuance information, there's a ton of minutia that you have to pay attention to when it comes to preparing for this exam, and then just the amount of information that you have to be able to recall, it's a lot. And it can create a lot of anxiety because, you're trying to remember one thing and then you're forgetting the other. So I had to make sure that I managed my anxiety, because that would impact my ability to understand and recall information. So I made sure to do things that really put me in the optimal state to study. It was all in my approach. So before I studied, one, I already knew in my mind, I'm going to study at a certain time. And then I made sure that my environment was conducive for studying, so that it felt more at ease and something where I could just kind of be as relaxed as possible and not feel rushed trying to study for the exam. So I would change the lighting in my office. I study right here in my office. I would change the lighting in my office. I would burn a candle, use my diffuser. I diffuse essential oils all the time. So I had my essential oil diffuser. I would burn a candle. I would get hot tea. I would play. Interestingly, I came across this like lofi or lofi. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but it's some kind of like lofi jazz type music or study music. And I would use that in the background. And that's only if I wasn't actually listening to a video. I would have that music playing in the background, and I dimmed my lights and, had a study light on. So it really just helped me to focus, be relaxed, be in an environment where I was comfortable, felt relaxed, and felt like I could just approach my study session from a place of ease and no stress. Okay, you don't want to study with a whole lot of stress. I think that really hinders your mind's ability to retain information. So especially when it's a lot of information. So I did those things because I really wanted to make sure that I was getting the information and closing the gap. Every study session, I wanted to feel like I knew more that day than I did the previous day. That was the feeling that I was going for every single study session. And I can say that for the most part, I would say about 95% of the time when I study, I had that feeling, but I had to do things to create that feeling. And that was manage my time, manage my energy, and manage the anxiety. These are things that they're not going to teach you when it comes to preparing for the exam, but I think it is really important because you don't want to get sick, right? I mean, you can't control it, but at the same time, like, you don't want to get sick. You don't want to burn yourself out up into the exam and you're just like no good. It is a huge task to prepare for this exam. So preparing for it, feeling burnt out is just not productive at all. Now, I'm not saying that you're not going to feel tired. There will be days when you may feel burnt out. There were days when I just felt weary. I was weary from studying because it was just like every day. And I was like, oh my goodness, I am so tired of dealing with this. But I knew that I had a deadline and I was getting closer and closer every single day. So, it paid off. But definitely managing your energy, managing your time, and managing your anxiety, giving your brain and your mind what it needs to function at a peak. And so if you're burnt out and if you're stressing, I can tell you right now that your mind, your mental capacity, your ability to retain and comprehend and recall information is not going to be optimal. You're not properly managing your energy, your time, or your anxiety, because you are going to have to deal with that. Okay. So those are three main things that I did, in addition to just being realistic about my capacity, changing my schedule, communicating my commitment to myself as well as to my family. The other thing I did was mindset work. I set that goal that I am going to pass this exam. I'm going to pass it on the first time. And I made a promise to myself, I'm not going to have to take this test ever again. So I think that believing in yourself is really important, because if you are doubting yourself, you're going to all of that is going to impact your ability to recall information. So I really just upped my belief in myself, and I would write it down in my journal that I am going to pass this exam. I will achieve my PMP certification. I will pass this exam on the first time. Like, I specifically stated those intentions out loud very often. And I also communicated those intentions to my family. So when I did need to study, I was like, hey, I need to study. And so I'm going to be out of the loop. I'm going to be, like basically off limits for the next couple of hours. And then I would state the why. I'm going to be off limits for the next couple of hours because I intend to pass this exam the first time. I do not want to have to take this exam again. So in order to do that, I need to study. So it was reinforcing the why am I going down here? Why am I doing this every day? Because I don't want to take this exam again. I want to pass this exam the first time and be done with it. So it was really up-leveling my belief, believing that this was going to happen for me, and also communicating that belief to myself and to my family members as just a way to kind of put it in the atmosphere that this is the intention and this is the outcome that I'm going for, and this is what's going to be required to reach that outcome, and then really just go for it. So I had to become my own coach, really stating your belief in your intention and committing to the fact that I'm going to pass this test the first time. And I'm taking this test one time and one time only. I can't tell you how many times I repeated that to myself. 2 more points is rest. Really important. Your brain is a muscle. And so the same way if you go to work out and you're doing heavy lifting with legs or whatever, you have to give your legs a break, or you have to give your arms a break. Rest and recovery. Very, very important, which is also tied to managing your energy, your anxiety, and your time. So there were days when I intentionally decided that I was not going to study. So I would do that. I allowed myself to rest. I allowed my brain to rest. Now, it wasn't the same kind of rest I was used to having without, not having that kind of deadline on me, but I still allowed my brain to rest. And I felt okay with that. You have to make the decision if this is a good idea for you. I was okay with I never went more than one day without studying, but there were days when I purposely decided that I wasn't going to study. So one, it was intentional. So I was okay with that. And the other reason why I was okay with that is because I had been doing the work. I know that I have been putting in the time. I have been putting in the hours of studying. So I felt that it was totally okay for me to go a day without studying, to give my brain a break. And also that was my way, which I think is helpful, is I would let my brain rest, sort of, but I was always still thinking about the information. And so if I knew I had like a really deep, intense study session one night, and there are days I would have multiple intense study sessions with myself. But the days that I decided that I wasn't going to study, I just felt like, okay, I'm at a point right now. I could tell when my brain was hitting that point, like hitting its max, I could feel it. I could feel it, that I was like, if I sit down and study anything else right now, like I felt like my brain's going to explode. I felt like I'm not going to retain anything. My brain is at maximum right now and I need a break. And I said, I'm just going to allow everything that I've learned to just kind of sit with me, if that makes any sense. I was like, I'm just going to let this information just sit with me, sit in my mind, like marinate, right? I'm just going to let my brain just marinate in everything that I've learned, because right now I can't read anything and actually get any value out of it or be able to retain information. So paying attention to my body, paying attention to what my mind needed, it let me know when it needed a break. I could feel the difference in how I was able to approach study sessions when I felt like I was at my maximum. And I could feel the difference in how my mental capacity was changing over time. And when I just hit that max and just knew okay, now I need to break, and then let my brain just kind of go through a reset and recover, and then I'll pick it up the next day. And again, I have been putting in the work, so I felt like I had the buffer to kind of sit back and just chill a bit. And the last thing is active studying. So this is more tactical, but active studying. I don't, I'm not going to say I don't think, because it's just my opinion, but I think to really be confident as much as you possibly can in the information is doing active studying. So just reading the book and just listening to videos is good, but I don't, for me, that was too passive. That was like lazy studying. And I won't say lazy studying, but it was just too passive. So active studying is important. So that meant for me, in addition to going through the boot camp, I listened to all of the videos. It was tons of videos that I listened to. I would listen to the videos while I worked. Set a goal like, okay, I'm going to listen to this video and it's 4 hours, and that's going to be the thing that I'm going to focus on for that day. So I guess if I combine listen to the video and then going like trying to study and get the information in my mind, there are days I guess that I probably focused on studying for like 6, maybe 7 hours. But I would say that active studying is really important, meaning writing the information down, recalling the information that you've learned, listening to the videos, reading the information, reading it out loud, writing the information down, doing active recall, practicing the memorization of some, the processes and things like that, just doing active studying and doing it over and over again. For the processes, especially the planning phase, and everything is in order, I did active recall and wrote those process steps down over and over and over and over again. Okay, and even the other ones, I just wrote them down over and over and over again. I had one notebook dedicated to project management, and I would just write it over and over again. And so I did that often. And then of course, times when I was just driving, I would just do an active recall. And then when I listened to the videos, I would, really hone in on things that maybe I felt a little shaky on. I didn't just listen and be like, oh, okay, yeah, I need to, I need to remember that. If there was something that came up that I think I missed, that I didn't fully understand, or just kind of brushed over, but hadn't really taken the time to dive into that particular topic well enough, even if it was a term, a concept, or something on a practice test that I took, that whether I thought I was going to get that question right or wrong, if the concept of it had me feeling a little bit shaky, I would just write it on a Post-it note, and as a reminder to go back and study that particular area. So active studying, but then also targeted studying, really honing in on where am I shaky, go and listen to the videos and focus on that. Listen with intention, take the notes, write down the stuff, active recall, listen to the videos, like just drilling it. And again, targeting information. And sometimes I would Google a particular concept if I wanted to just see the definition explained in a different way, to give my mind that a more solid way of understanding this. And then doing practice tests. My training, or the training organization I use, they offered several simulation tests, 180 questions that was timed exactly like the real test. And I would do those tests, and I would approach those simulation tests the same way I approached the real test. I let my family know that I'm getting ready to take a test. I cannot be bothered. Like, I am totally off limits You can't ask me questions, like everything. And I closed my door and I did the practice test the same way I would do a simulation test. I was on the timer. I made sure to take small breaks, go to the bathroom, drink water, sit down, complete the test. So I simulated even just everything from not even mumbling the questions out, not mumbling the questions, not saying the questions out loud. I sat at my desk right here in my office and approached the test the same way I would have to approach the test in the actual testing center, meaning no talking, nothing. And um, taking those simulation tests and then going over the simulation test, reviewing my results and reviewing all 180 questions, even the questions that I got right, I would still go over them and look at the how they explained the answer. Even if I got the answer right, I would look at how, what the explanation was behind the answer, because I just wanted to get that information in my head. And of course, the wrong answers, I drilled down on even more. But that's more of the tactical part. But I just wanted to share with you, what I think it really, really takes, because it's just more than just studying. And again, I didn't want to be burnt out. I didn't want to be just stressed out and all that stuff. I wanted to feel really good. And so I had my exam first thing on Monday morning at 8 o'clock. And I went in and, didn't kind of knew what to expect. I kind of knew what to expect, but it was still kind of different because it's the real thing. And just went in there and I did it. And I'm going to be honest, there were times when I felt like, as I was taking the test, I felt like, oh my goodness, these questions are so ambiguous. They were feeling ambiguous. The questions were, you feel like you can interpret it one way or the other way. And I was trying to, I was getting a little bit of anxiety because I was trying to make sure that I was honing in on the right words and making sure I understood exactly what it was asking and all of that. And that was really important. But even though I felt shaky on some, I really did feel shaky. And there were times when I was going through the test and I was thinking, oh my gosh, this is not going to end up good. This is not going to end up good. But I would just think through it. I had to keep telling myself, like, okay, just focus and just push through. And I said that to myself silently, just push through, stay focused and push through, think, pay. And I would remind myself, pay attention to the questions, pay attention to the questions, and just use the strategies that the facilitators provided, and trust the strategies that the facilitators provided. Trust the information that I know. And that really worked for me. It really worked for me. And the test is 4 hours, and I took 3 hours and 58 minutes to finish that test. Okay. And I had 2 minutes left to review. So mind you, I barely had time to review my test. And when I got the results and it said pass and I was above target in all the domains, I was like, oh my gosh, so I was really happy. And that's why I'm here sharing this with you all today. I haven't printed out my PMP certificate yet, but I will. So I hope this was helpful for you. Again, I just wanted to share some other things that you can or should consider when preparing for your PMP exam, so that you can really have the confidence and then have the mental stamina that you need in order to be successful when you approach this test and get the outcome that you hoped for, or get the outcome that even exceeds your expectation. So I just want to leave you with this. If you are preparing for your exam, that means that you are really taking on the mantle of making a difference in not only your life, organizations and leaders and team members, people, businesses. As you know, you have the ability to make a huge impact on a lot of people and a lot of organizations. And that is a huge responsibility. And I think that if by you already knowing that, then I trust that and hope that you will give yourself the ability to do and uh, the due diligence and apply the level of discipline that is needed in order to get this exam behind you. Okay, so I think you have what it takes. It's just a matter of really just being very serious about it, making this your top goal, your priority, your high priority goal, your critical goal, and making everything else secondary. Do what is necessary to get this exam behind you. Make the changes that you need to make the commitments that you need to make, communicate the boundaries that you need to communicate, manage yourself, manage your energy, your time, your anxiety, pay attention to your body, get the rest that you need. Don't burn yourself out. And the day before your exam, I would just say rest. That's what I did. My exam was on a Monday. On Sunday, I absolutely did not look at any project management stuff at all. I thought to myself, it's the day before the exam. And if I don't know it by now, I'm not going to know it. I felt like I knew all that I could possibly know at the time, and I had to trust that. So the day before the exam, I did not study. Not sure if that's will work for you, but it worked for me because I knew I had been putting in the work. And so the day before the test, I was just like, that's it. At this point, I'm in management mode. I'm going to manage myself, my time, my energy, and I'm going to relax, allow my brain to just really do what it needs to do to get ready, because I need to get rest and be ready to crush it on Monday morning. And that's what I did. And so I'm really proud of myself. And yeah, so I hope that this was helpful for you. Just other things that you should be doing in addition to studying for your exam, so that you can, if you are in the position I was in, then I highly recommend that you do what is necessary to make this a successful outcome for you. All right, so let me know if this was helpful. Love to hear your comments. Thank you for joining me, and I'll be catching up with you all very soon.